Welcome back to the 4-Point Play. My name is Tom, and today it's just going to be me and Raul going through the All-NBA predictions that we have. So we can start with the first team. I assume we'll have pretty much the exact same first team.
I think we're going to have the same exact first team. Pretty easy this year.
There's only one who I think is a teeter, but I think you'll be on my side with this one. So I have Jokic, Doncic, Giannis, Shea, and Jason Tatum.
Yeah, I have the exact same one. The only thing I will say about the first team is that when it comes down to that last spot in the first team All-NBA between Tatum and I think that obviously the other guy is going to be Brunson just because of how he's played this year.
Yep.
Personally, when I made my predictions for like MVP awards and stuff like that, I went Tatum on the first team, but then I put Brunson as my fifth guy on the ballot for like the MVP.
That's fair.
Because I think it's different. I do think that obviously for like first team All-NBA, I think team success definitely factors in just like a bit more for me. And then on top of it too, Brunson was just so outstanding at certain points of the year to carry the Knicks. So like I was just thinking Tatum definitely because the Celtics have 64 wins. You can't be a 64-win team to me and not have a first-team All-NBA player.
Yeah,
so,
I agree.
And he's definitely the best player on the team. So
yeah.
I had to go with Jason Tatum there, and then
Yeah, and that'll lead us right into second team. So I got Brunson, Anthony Edwards, Anthony Davis, KD, and LeBron.
Hot take. Yeah, I had the same exact second team as you, with the exception of throwing in Kawhi Leonard. Because I know that obviously right now, when you look at what he's doing in the playoffs, it's definitely just disappointing. I mean, right now, if you're looking at it from a perspective of a Clippers fan, you've got to be traumatized after what you've been through these past few playoffs with him, being injured and just consistently not being available. But in reality, this is a regular season thing, and I know it's so tough that like these awards are announced obviously during the playoffs. Like you kind of see how things actually pan out and who really is like the guy, you know.
Yep.
So I think that if it was just a regular season thing, I'm going with Kawhi. Definitely, the Clippers had a really hot stretch there when they figured it out. Once they got Harden in there and they figured out how they were going to play, and they got one on that, I think it was like they went like 28-5 maybe for like a period of the season or something like that.
Yeah.
Could have gotten the 1 seed at one point. They were like in the mix for that.
So. They were on fire at a certain point. They had like a 25-game stretch where they were like by far the best team.
Yeah, they were in the mix. So like I went with Kawhi. I think that.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's completely fair. When I first made my list, I had Kawhi in the 5th spot there and had LeBron bumped onto 3rd team. Mm-hmm. But then I kind of just looked at it. I weighed it. LeBron's averaging more points, rebounds, assists, better field goal percentage. And the Clippers only had 4 more wins than the Lakers.
Yeah, no, the West was super tight, so it's obviously tough with that.
I think both of those guys, you know, it sucks throwing a 10-seeded guy onto two 10-seeded guys onto second-team All-NBA. Mm-hmm. And they're from the same team. But, I don't know. It's, the stats LeBron was putting up were pretty incredible. And, you know, Kawhi, like, he had a great season. So, and early on, he was in, like, the MVP race. A lot of people had him, like, top 3.
Mm-hmm. Some people had him first team All-NBA for, like, up until, like, even
probably
3 quarters
like 3
of the way
weeks ago, yeah.
Like, some people had him there.
Yeah. 3rd team, this one was hard. There were a couple guys who, you know, seemed deserving, but didn't quite make the cut. Mm-hmm. So 3rd team for me, Kawhi Leonard, Jaylen Brown, Steph Curry, Devin Booker, and Sabonis.
So we actually had the same 15 players then.
Wow.
In my 5th team, I had the same exact thing as you, except I went with Kawhi on the 2nd team and I put LeBron on the 3rd team. Mm-hmm. And then I had Jaylen Brown, Sabonis, Booker, and Curry on there. Yep. I almost wanted to drop Curry out, but like
I almost did.
I wanted to, and I was like, when I was originally making this, I was looking at the players I was going to pick, and I was like, oh, do I throw Maxey in there? Do I throw Halliburton in there even? But then I was like, you know, as much as I don't want to put Steph Curry in there because the Warriors have been such a disappointment, he put up with so much trash throughout that season with Draymond Green. With all the suspensions, Draymond being out like 15, 16, 17 games or something, getting ejected from multiple different games. Draymond putting him on the verge of tears in that one game where he was literally weeping on the court into his face. So I think for me, with everything that Steph went through, I gave him the last spot. Like, if I had to pick 15 guys, Steph would have been the 15th guy. And that's saying something, because at the beginning of the year, I thought he could have been easily first-team All-NBA. But
That's fair. For me, with Steph, he might have been my last cut for the third team, because he only averaged 26, 5, and 5 on 45% shooting, which, I mean, like, it's not awful, but like for him, that's pretty disappointing. And a lot of these other guys had great seasons. You know, Sabonis averaged like 20, 13, and 8. Booker averaged like 26 and 5.
yeah.
Or 27, 6, and 5.
He had an underrated year, because obviously he missed some
did.
time at the beginning, and the Suns
I know.
kind of underperformed. But he played pretty well.
Yeah, I have Booker's stats right here. He averaged 27, 7 assists, and 5 rebounds. And he played 68 games.
Exactly.
49% shooting. So, you know, he's more efficient than Steph over. Obviously, Steph's three-pointer is going to be a little higher than Booker. But everything else for Booker is just better.
It's funny, too, how things, like, fluctuate throughout the year. Because at one point, when Booker was missing all that time at the beginning, everybody was saying, oh, Halliburton's going off right now. He's going to be maybe even a first-team All-NBA player. Even Maxey, when like he was playing all those games, and when the Sixers were rolling, because Embiid was obviously still healthy at that point.
Yep.
And keep in mind, too, with Embiid, he's not eligible. I mean, he would have been the MVP of the league and taken up one of these spots for sure in the first team. So somebody's benefiting here. I don't know who it is. Maybe it is Steph getting that last spot, but I mean, you had Booker potentially, because he effectively had to wait a little bit to get in there. He missed a bunch of games in the beginning, so he kind of had to get into his groove a little bit later. And then he ended up kind of passing all these guys. I would say he probably passed these guys maybe a month, maybe like 2 weeks to a month after the All-Star break. I'd say that's when he kind of like was getting into his groove. The Suns, they had a really tough schedule there at the end as well.
Yeah.
That's why I said Booker and KD kind of both have to be on there. Definitely not Bradley Beal. Obviously, he's not eligible.
He didn't have the stats for it.
Or the games.
The other thing about the Suns really picked it up at the end. You know, they had like one of the hardest schedules in NBA history for the last 15 games.
Yeah.
And I think they won like 10 or 11 of those games, beating teams like the Nuggets, the Kings,
the Nuggets twice.
Yeah,
so
like Timberwolves.
Beat
They
the
beat
Wolves
a bunch
twice,
of these great teams on this path.
And obviously playoffs don't count. So like right now, as we're watching them go down 3-0, it's kind of like we can't. Obviously that factors in. That was factoring in my mind too. I'm like, like they're down 3-0. Can I really put two of their guys in the? And same thing with the Lakers too, right? They're down 3-0. They were down 3-0 to the Nuggets, but yeah.
I mean, some of the guys we have all NBA, 2 of them aren't even in the playoffs.
True.
But now we can kind of address the elephant in the room. You've already alluded to it a little bit. Tyrese Halliburton and a couple other of these guys who didn't make the cut. We can start with Halliburton because he's probably the one that a lot of people are going to be frustrated that he didn't get to make the team. He has $40 million riding on making a team. And he really started out the season well. A lot of people were saying he was going to be the first team All-NBA guard. He was in the MVP conversation. He was averaging 24 and 12, I think.
He was crazy at one point too. Like he had those couple games back to back where he had I think a triple double with no turnovers or something. He had 15 assists and 30 points or something with 0 turnovers in back to back games.
He had a great 25 game run. He had the in-season tournament where he went to the finals and eventually lost to the Lakers, but he knocked out the Celtics and the Bucks along the way and played great in both of those games. And then he had his hamstring injury, and you can tell he kind of rushed his way back. And since then, post All-Star break, he really hasn't been as impactful. The Pacers haven't they haven't been that good. I mean, they got Siakam, thankfully. If they hadn't gotten Siakam, they might have been. They would have been cooked. They might have been cooked.
They would have been cooked.
They might have been.
For sure.
In the play-in under some of these other teams, and I think he averaged 18 and 9, which is still good for a point guard, but that's not first team All-NBA level.
Yep.
And when you start to go down the list with a lot of these guys, it's just hard for me to squeeze him in. So he was probably my first. He was actually my second cut. My first cut would have been Wembanyama because
really,
yeah. I mean, Wembanyama to me, he's one of the best defensive players in the league already, and his offense is awesome. He's efficient. Well, he became efficient. He started off a little. He was kind of the opposite of Halliburton. Wemby started, he kind of had a rough entry into the NBA. Pop was playing some questionable lineups around him.
Reduced minutes too.
Reduced minutes. He played less than 30 minutes a game this season, which is really limited time. And he really picked it up the second half of the season post All-Star break. He was awesome. So for me, he would have been my first cut just because of the defensive aspect. And then Tyrese. And then I'd say the only other two guys I would even give considerations for would be De'Aaron Fox and Paul George. Mm-hmm. But I couldn't give it to Fox if I already have Sabonis on the team.
Yeah.
He averaged, I think, 26 a game, 26, 4 and 4, I believe.
Good scorer, yeah.
He's solid, but, the Kings were a bad team. And obviously you could make the argument that we had the Lakers, two guys, both on the All-NBA teams. Mm-hmm. But the stats from AD and LeBron are just better. And Fox is kind of not a great defender.
I do know, too, that last year Fox and Sabonis both made it, I think. When they were the 3 seed, I believe they were both third-team All-NBA last year. So I don't think he has any money. I don't think either of them have any money riding on this.
I don't think
so. If you're a Pacers fan, you got to be happy with this, though, obviously, that Halliburton's not going to end up getting that Supermax contract. Because if we're being completely honest, he's not a Supermax player. If you're paying Tyrese Halliburton all that money, you're probably not going to be winning a championship with that on your with that hit to your cap. So
no. Yeah. At first, a lot of people thought he might have been a top 10 player. I don't think he's quite there yet. And then Paul George would be my last cut. He had a decent season. He had similar stats to Jaylen Brown, but obviously the Celtics are just way better than the Clippers, so Jaylen Brown's going to take that spot. And then you have a couple guys, really, who would have probably made a lot of these spots, like, that didn't meet the games requirement that started this year, the 65-game rule.
Yeah.
So we got Joel, obviously, would have been first team. Donovan Mitchell.
Yep, he would have been second
team. And Kyrie Irving.
Yeah.
He could have squeezed his way into third team. So
I got 2 more as well, actually. So,
2 more snubs?
Not snubs, but, guys that I considered, kind of. Mm-hmm. So one of them is Paolo Banchero, actually. I think that he actually deserves at least a mention. I know that obviously the Magic, they were good at one point and they kind of tapered down. They were beating a couple good teams during the year. They kind of beat the Celtics, they beat the Nuggets at one point. But I think Banchero took a big leap. The problem with him is his shooting. In the backs of he could score some points, but I just feel like what he was doing wasn't correlating enough. To make a spot. Also a second-year player, so I don't think it's...
he had a really good year. Almost 23 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists, and he played 80 games. But he's 6'10", and his field goal percentage is 45, and his 3-point percentage is 33.
Yeah, he's got to get better at that.
Free throws 72. So great player. He's going to be a superstar at some point.
And then the last one for me was Maxey, but obviously towards the end I didn't really consider it. Mm-hmm. If Embiid stayed healthy and Maxey could play off of him the entire year, I think Maxey would have ended up with about 25, 26 points a game, and I think that he probably would have snuck his way on there with the Sixers having a good record.
I agree.
Because if Embiid played the whole year, I think there's no doubt the Sixers would have been the 2.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Maxey, to me, the fact that after Joel Embiid got hurt, the Sixers went into free fall is just, he has no defensive presence. Mm-hmm. And he had an okay roster around him, and they were just absolutely horrible when he was playing. And like you said, I think if Joel Embiid stayed healthy, that probably would have elevated Maxey.
They would have gotten 2 spots.
They probably would have. They probably both would have made it because their record would have been. They probably would have been closer to Boston than anyone else.
Yep.
And then. Yeah.
I was rooting for it, too, as a Celtics fan. I wanted Maxey to hit the first-team All-NBA because, obviously, if he gets... Or not first-team All-NBA, third-team All-NBA, because if he got it, they'd have to max him out with a Supermax contract, and that's going to hit their cap really hard.
Early season, they mentioned him for second team.
They did, yeah.
All right. So that's going to wrap up our All-NBA teams. We have the same 15 guys, which is crazy, and the only difference we have in the entire thing is Kawhi and LeBron swapped for the second and third teams. We can go into a little bit of the playoff picture right now. Today's the 28th. Right now the Pacers and Bucks are playing. We just watched the Clippers sneak out a win against the Mavericks after being up 31. Mm-hmm. So we can kind of go through some of the series and where we think they stand. So we can start with the Celtics. Both of us are Celtics fans.
I say it's over.
It's over.
The question is, how many games?
I think max the Heat pull out one more. There's no way this goes 7.
Mm-hmm.
You can just tell from the first and third game that the Celtics' talent gap is
immense.
so much better than it's just huge compared to the Heat. And Joe Mazzulla I think he was experimenting in that second game, if I'm being honest, trying to bait the Heat into shooting threes, and then Eric Spoelstra baited the Celtics into shooting twos, and it just ended up being a math problem that didn't favor the Celtics. And we still only lost by 10.
Mm-hmm.
Both of the other games we won by 20 plus. So that I'm assuming that series is going to go 5, assuming Jimmy Butler does not return. All right, then we got Magic Cavs. So this series just got really interesting because Cavs started 2-0, pretty commanding wins in both of those games. And then the Magic stormed back in Game 3, win by 40. And then in Game 4, they win by 20. And it was close for a while, and then they just pulled away. I picked the Magic in 6. You picked Cavs in 7?
In 7, yeah.
So I don't know where it's going to go. We'll see.
I like the pick. I'm liking the Cavs in 7 pick right now because I think that this is the type of series. Both teams are really young.
Yep.
And this is the classic case to me of role players play better at home, kind of. Like, Max Strus is going to be hitting those bigger shots when he's in Cleveland as opposed to being on the road. And I like Donovan Mitchell, too. I just feel like Donovan Mitchell in the playoffs has been super clutch, and I think in a Game 7, I'd back him over Banchero at this point. So.
That's fair.
And it would be at home, too, for the Cavs.
Yeah. It's pretty ugly. I mean, I'm pretty comfortable with my Magic in 6.
Damn.
I think
they're gonna win the next 2.
I think they are going to win the next. I mean, I think that they win Game 5, it's
then they'll
over.
get it done in 6. You're right. Yeah.
I think if they win Game 5, it's over. Right now, I don't think the Magic have any pressure on them at all.
Young team. The Cavs have tons of pressure though.
And the Cavs are
and stuff.
They're about to become really expensive. Donovan Mitchell's a questionable guy who they don't know what they're going to do with him. They don't know if they can keep this big tandem together with Mobley and Allen. Garland's kind of...
Who knows?
How good is Garland? Last year he was an all-star. This year he's been a disappointment. He's been hurt a couple times. I don't think the Cavs are going to pull it off. Unless Donovan Mitchell scores like 35, I don't see them winning this game. I think the Magic just needed 2 games under their belt to, they took their beating, and then
they needed to get acquainted with the playoffs.
None of these guys have ever played in the playoffs. I think Ingles is the only guy on that roster.
Joe Ingles, yeah.
I mean, Jonathan Isaac, did he play in... Who was he on in the bubble?
He was on the Magic in the bubble.
Oh, so they didn't play in the playoffs.
Yeah, no, they didn't play in the playoffs.
Okay, so...
He's really good, though. He can lock down
filthy.
anybody. On defense, you can just throw him on literally any player that you want to, and That's
going to be a fun series. I mean, it could go either way. I think it's all going to come down to Donovan Mitchell's play. Because the Magic, these last 2 games have had... It was commanding 2 Cavs, and now really commanding 2 Magic. So we'll see when it goes back to Cleveland what happens.
Yeah.
Bucks Pacers right now. I don't know the score. I don't have it up, but... The Bucks are playing the Pacers without Giannis and Lillard in Game 4. Bucks are down 2-1. That game.
This is. This is it.
If the Bucks win this game, that's a miracle. If money-making Middleton can do something about this, I don't know if he can though. So I'm gonna assume the Bucks are gonna be down 3-1 tonight.
I will say they needed that last game so much.
That was a brutal loss.
The fact that they lost basically on a buzzer beater after hitting 2 insanely clutch shots from Middleton. That was one of the craziest games I think I've ever seen. We had Middleton hitting those 2 clutch shots. One of them was a bank shot too to tie the game up with I think 3 seconds left.
Yeah.
They threw it to Halliburton in the backcourt, and somehow within 2 seconds he runs up, hits a floater, and draws the foul as well. I just thought that was one of those where if you're a Bucks fan, you kind of know we needed that one without our guys. And now Dame's hurt. I don't think he's coming back either for the rest of the series. I saw something that with his Achilles strain, obviously back of his ankle or whatever. I saw something on Twitter, which is not necessarily the most reliable thing, but it was a doctor who said Achilles strains normally take about a couple weeks to heal from. So we'll see what happens. I don't know if he's going to end up playing or not for the rest of the series. But with Giannis, what I always said when I made my prediction, I picked Bucks in 7 Because what I thought was going to happen was Giannis is going to miss the first 3 games. The Bucks would be down 2-1, and then Giannis would be back, and then I'd back Giannis to be able to beat the Pacers 4 or 5 times.
I picked Bucks in
3
7.
out of 4 times, my bad. But no, now it's like if Giannis doesn't play at all, I just have no faith in this team.
Yeah.
He's the entire team, and Doc Rivers is the coach too, so that gives me even less faith in the team.
Yeah, I picked Bucks in 7 originally. I thought what was going to happen was kind of what's happening, but in a different order. I thought the Pacers might have taken game 1 and 2 in Milwaukee, and then I thought there were conflicting reports. I thought Giannis might have come back and been able to play and will them through that series and win 4 out of the next 5.
Yeah.
But Bucks take game 1 commandingly. Game 2, Pacers take, and Siakam's been playing out of his mind.
Yeah, he's been really good.
I don't know if he still is, but before last night he was
putting up Wilt Chamberlain numbers.
He was averaging like 36 most in the playoffs.
36
in the first 2 games.
36 at 11, I think. I mean,
that's absurd.
Literally Wilt numbers.
Yeah, and yeah, I don't know how the Bucks come back from this without, especially, I mean, they're already a shallow team. No Lillard and no Giannis tonight. That's not going to end well for them. No. And the series, usually when you go down 3-1, it's pretty much over. Mm-hmm. Unless Giannis and Dame both come back for Game 5, but I don't see it happening. And do we have another series? Knicks Sixers.
Yeah.
I mean, that series unfortunately is over.
I think it's over.
We just today saw Knicks take Game 4, so they're up 3-1. Embiid, I mean, I feel for Embiid he's got this palsy syndrome he's got going on in his face where he can't move his mouth and his eye. Mm-hmm. He's got a destroyed meniscus or MCL, whichever it was.
Yeah.
I mean, the poor guy he never has played healthy in the playoffs.
He's just too big for his own good, honestly. That's the problem.
It's unfortunate.
He just gets hurt all the time.
Yeah. And it's always just right when the playoffs start, unfortunately. But yeah, I mean, being down 3-1, going back to New York.
2 games in New York out of the next 3 if it goes 7. So I think even if it goes to 7 games, it's over.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't see that happening. Mm-hmm. So we can go to the West. Lakers Nuggets. Lakers squeaked out a win last night against the Nuggets, and I mean that was just a Hail Mary effort, I think, by the Lakers. The Nuggets were playing a little passive in that, but I mean, there's no shot the Lakers are coming back. They were down 3-0, and now it's 3-1. I think it's going to be Nuggets in 5.
The thing is, too, with me, is I wanted that series to end so badly just because tomorrow you already know the national media is going to go crazy. Like, can the Lakers be the first team ever to come back from 0-3 down? Like, and we're going to have to listen to that all day. Like, it's going to kill me.
Yeah.
I can't do it.
Yeah, but that series is cooked. I mean, Anthony Davis and LeBron have both been playing their butts off. Anthony Davis especially, and it's just every game by the end he's worn down from Jokic. Mm-hmm. Suns Timberwolves over. I mean, Raul out of all of the 4-Point Play members was the only one to pick the Timberwolves to win this series.
And I picked him in 7 as well. So.
And you might have been a couple games off. This could end in 4.
I just hope it goes 6. Can the Suns pull out
that game's tonight, I believe, right?
It is
at 9:30.
Yeah. It's in Phoenix, so I don't think they're getting swept tonight.
No,
I don't think they are.
I mean, with the amount of if they get swept
after embarrassed
and their top 3 players are getting paid $180 million, you
can't trade the one that's the worst that's getting paid the most.
I know.
It's a horrible spot.
I mean, the only option for them really is to trade Durant.
Or Booker.
No, you can't trade Booker. You want to be
a ton back for Booker, though. I feel like if you trade him, you could get back a haul.
I'd say if you're going to trade Booker, you might as well also just get rid of KD.
Keep in mind, once again, with the Thunder having all those picks, like, you never know what you could get back for him. You could maybe get Jalen Williams in, 4 or 5 first-round picks and then reset. You never know. Honestly, it's a possibility, and that could work, but I don't think they're trading Booker because he's their star.
He's their most valuable asset.
And they drafted him too. He's the only one they drafted. So
it's the age. I mean, he's almost 10 years younger than KD. Mm-hmm. Do you really want to be trying to restructure your roster with 37-year-old Kevin Durant.
There's a chance KD will ask for a trade too. We've seen him do it twice.
I don't think he's going to ask for a trade. That'd be absurd. But this is really hurting his legacy. Unfortunately, he hasn't been able to do anything outside of Golden State. Mm-hmm. And 2 out of the last 3 years, if they get swept tonight, that'll be 2 out of the last 3 years that he got swept.
Yep.
By a team that at that time really wasn't. It's not like they were a juggernaut.
Yeah.
It's like you got swept by the young Celtics when Tatum was 24 and he bullied you. Mm-hmm. And then this year, Anthony Edwards is bullying you and he's 22.
I know. It's just pathetic, honestly. And he's embarrassing them too. He's talking. I mean, I don't know if you've seen in the first game he was chirping him face to face, like right point blank. The last game he was doing this funny thing where he was going like that at the end of it. Like, I mean.
Yeah, he's been arrogant the whole series, and he's backing it up.
It's not good. It's not good for KD.
I think, unfortunately for KD, that series is going to be in hindsight pretty quick. Mm-hmm. Then we got Clippers-Mavs. Just saw Clippers pull it out.
Yep.
Tie the series up 2-2. Huge. Mm-hmm. The key aspect of this series that's of huge note is that the Clippers have won the 2 games that Kawhi didn't play. What do you think about this?
I think that it's just the fact that he's hurt. I think that they should have just probably sat him the whole time, and I think they might be up 3-1 at this point if they didn't play Kawhi.
They probably would be.
They tried to play. I think they played him 35 minutes in Game 2. They played him 25 in Game 3, and he was just a negative the entire time. Yeah. Like, to me, it's just like it was just not worth it. He's clearly not able to play. We've seen the same story with Kawhi, just like with Embiid, every single year, over and over again. And, this is how it's going to be. They paid him $50 million for the next 3 years, and this is going to be an awful contract. He might play a majority of the regular season, but we know what's going to happen with him. He's going to break down a month before the playoffs, and then they're going to be cooked. Every single time it happens.
I know this isn't realistic, but, I mean, Kawhi and even Embiid, like, can we just have 1 year where we just don't play them until the playoffs start? 1 year.
The funny thing is, we kind of had a year where they were both healthy. 2019, that year, when Kawhi won the title, Kawhi was healthy and Embiid was healthy. I mean, he had a fractured face. I think he was wearing a mask, but he could play. Like, it wasn't like his knee or his like shoulder or anything like that that was hindering him. He could still play.
People play with the masks all the time. That's not gonna. I mean, it might mess you up a little, but that's not. It's not an excuse. Mm-hmm. And I mean, the Sixers had the way better team in that series.
They did.
So that was a disappointment. But yeah, that is funny that the last time either of them have been fully healthy really was against each other. Yeah. Back in the East. How long has Kawhi been on the Clippers? 5 years now?
Which is insane. I just can't believe that.
I know.
5 years at this point.
5 years in one conference finals when you have
And he wasn't even playing.
No.
Wasn't even playing in that series. That's insane.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't see a reason for Kawhi to come back in this series. Obviously, the Harden, more Harden in this offense is...
It's helping him.
It's helping them. Like, obviously, he's going to initiate the offense no matter what, but him being able to really be that scorer. Tonight he dropped over 30, and Paul George, I think, was around 30 or maybe over 30. They both played absurdly well. And in the other games, they were not good with Kawhi. I think they were trying to, it's like, you got to focus on winning. It's hard to focus on winning when you're trying to reacclimate your number one guy.
Exactly.
Who's coming back from a knee injury, hasn't
played in a month. That's the thing. Yeah. Like, he's been out for an entire month, and at this point, it's just too hard to bring him back.
No, nothing you can do there. What do you think's going to end up happening? I honestly think if Kawhi doesn't come back, the Clippers are going to go up 3-2 but lose in 7.
I think that's a fair point. I think the Mavs are actually going to win the next game, and I think the Clippers are going to... I think it's going to be... Because this is kind of what happened before when they played back in 2021. I want to say the Mavericks won the first 2 games on the road, then the Clippers win the next 2 on the road as well, and then it was every single time the road team won, with the exception of Game 7 where Luka had 46 points, and then Kawhi Leonard also was insane in the clutch, and the Clippers pulled that out at home. Yeah. So I think what's going to happen is it's going to be kind of like that, where... The Mavs win Game 5 on the road, the Clippers win Game 6 on the road, and then the Mavs win Game 7 on the road. I think that's what's going to happen.
So, yeah, it seems like we both think Mavs in 7. That series is super fun right now, though. And the Kawhi piece is so interesting. It's just like if you're rooting for the Clippers, we both picked the Mavericks to win anyway. Mm-hmm. But if you're rooting for the Clippers, I mean, that's just tough. Like trying to throw Kawhi back in and he's just a negative impact on your team. And then the last series is
Thunder Pelicans. That's over.
Yeah.
3-0 Thunder. Zion's out. That's got to be the easiest draw ever for the Thunder. I mean, this is honestly, quite frankly, if you're a Thunder fan, you have to be elated right now because everybody was talking trash about their team. 57-win team, youngest team in the league, youngest starting five, 57 wins in the Western Conference, and they were the 1 seed. Yep. Everybody's saying, oh, the Lakers should try to lose to play them, and now they're looking at potentially a really easy path to the conference finals if the Mavs and the Clippers go 7 games and then they end up playing the Thunder, who get a whole entire week off of rest, and then the Thunder have home court. I mean, you're looking at potentially the Thunder easily going to the conference finals, and then if Denver and Minnesota go 7 games as well, I mean, you never know what's going to happen with that, so...
I don't know if I could see the Thunder getting to the finals. I mean, they might be able to beat the Mavs or Clippers, maybe. I would probably pick Mavs or Clippers over them.
I would
still,
too.
But just because of the inexperience and in fairness, like they're playing a team that already wasn't even that good, and their best players, by far their best player, is out.
I think they'd beat the Clippers, but I don't think they'd beat the Mavs, personally.
They might beat the Clippers if Kawhi's not playing, or if they try to play Kawhi and he's bad.
Yeah, I could see that.
But
I gotta show some respect to the Thunder being the number 1 seed.
It is cool that I mean, everyone was saying, you know, like, oh, they're gonna go out. I mean, I was one of them. I was one of the people who was saying, oh, they're gonna go out first round, like to anybody, pretty much in the West. And I do think if Zion was healthy, the series would be a lot different.
I think it'd be a 6 or 7 game series if Zion played.
I might have picked the Pelicans to win the series if Zion was healthy, but unfortunately he's not. And the Pelicans are actually holding up well. There's one problem on that team, and it's CJ McCollum. He is absolutely atrocious. He's a nice guy, but oh my gosh, is he a cancerous player? He takes like 25 shots a game. He's shot like probably 30% field goal percentage for the whole series, probably 10% from 3. Mm-hmm. He shoots the most shots by far on the team, and he is an absolute liability on defense. If I'm the Pelicans, I am packaging CJ McCollum and one of my young, valuable guys to get a stud point guard. Because he's not the guy. You have Ingram. Ingram, he's not a number 1, as we can see. But I think he's a solid number 2, just to have. And if you get a good enough point guard, he might be able to be your number 3.
He might be on the outs, though, with Ingram, because I know they have to pay him. And they're not going to want to max him out, so they're going to have to, that's going to be a tough talk.
We'll see. I don't know. I don't see him just signing somewhere, though. I think
sign and trade, maybe.
Yeah, that might happen, but
I could see that.
To me, it's if I'm the Pelicans, I'm getting rid of CJ. He's just, you have a solid team. I mean, Valanciunas, him and Chet are a pretty even matchup because Valanciunas kills him on the interior, but Chet, obviously, his 3-point shooting.
He spaces the floor so well.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
But any surprises so far? I mean, the only real surprise to me so far in the playoffs.
The Thunder, the Suns.
Timberwolves going up 3-0. And honestly, the Heat squeaking out a game that early. I thought they'd take a game, in Miami, and it would be like a hard-fought game. But the Heat kind of it was a convincing 10-point game. Mm-hmm. But the rest of the playoffs, I've felt pretty confident that that's how I envisioned it going.
Yeah.
Right now, it's probably still looks like the favorites might go to the finals. Celtics in the East, I'm sure everyone would assume, and
Nuggets in the West.
Probably the Nuggets in the West right now.
Maybe the Wolves, though. I'm not counting the Wolves out.
Can't count them out. Can't count. I mean, there's a lot of all 4 of the teams that are up in the. I mean, the Clippers, Mavs are tied, but all 4 of those other teams, Timberwolves, Clippers, Mavs, and Thunder, all. They could challenge the Nuggets. I think they all beat them in the regular season at some point.
The West is just a dogfight. That's the thing. Where it's like the East, it's like if the Bucks and the Sixers go out here, I mean, Jason Tatum will be the best player in every series, from there on out, which is why I back the Celtics so much.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the time, as we know how it works, it's like if you have the guy, you're gonna win, right? Even if the teams are
not always.
Not always, but like if you look at it historically, it's kind of just like generally speaking, the big players show up in the playoffs, and it's like that's part of the reason why when it comes down to it, I think that if the Clippers play the Thunder, I would back Shea to take down the Clippers if Kawhi didn't play. Because I mean, I'd say Shea is just the best player at that point.
I mean, a healthy Kawhi is better than Shea, but
I agree. Yeah, I agree.
Especially in the playoffs.
In the playoffs, yeah.
But I agree with you. If no Kawhi, then I'd probably go Thunder there.
Yeah.
I had a thought, but it's whatever. We can get back to it in another episode. Thank you for watching the 4-Point Play. Make sure you go check out some of our other videos.
Check out the other videos and like and subscribe.